All right, folks, for 131, Unit 1, this is be 3 of 3. This is really the short version of all this, folks. If you want the long version, I suggest you go ahead and hook up with World Civ 1 and 2 at this particular point. Where I left you off at is we had plague, we had death, we had destruction, we had horrific loss of life. Hey, but it's a good thing too. All right? Yes, in some cases, two-thirds of the population of parts of Europe are wiped out. But, like I said, what's going to happen is where we had a shortage of work, now we have a shortage of workers. Where we were locked in before to the feudal system and you were going to do whatever your dad grew up doing, you were going to do that. Now there's going to be choice. Now there's going to be a possibility of pain. Now there's going to be a possibility of changing what you do. And something else funny is going to happen because prior to this time, the church was one of the major authorities. The church, again, Catholic Church, folks, is one of the major authorities. The church is part almost of the government at this particular point. The government backs the church backs the government, and people just make do. There's a lot of faithful people, and there's nothing wrong with being a faithful person, being a devout person, but the church controls life. What's going to happen when the plague hits is the church's answer is going to be saying it's an act of God. They're going to say, hey, it's punishment for your sins. Hey, it's punishment for your sinners. People are going to turn to the church. People are going to be incredibly devout to the church. And then it turns out that priests, friars will start to die. And people go, hey, wait. If it's an act of God, if it's all about punishment for sinners, how come the people from the church are dying off? This will be a church quake, folks. Wow, right, a church quake. What's going to happen is this will not destroy the power of the church, but it will disrupt the power of the church. And that's important, okay? Because it changes society, okay? It changes economics. We shift from the feudal system to a mercantile system. Okay, this is the birth of the Renaissance, the reawakening, the reimagining, the rebirth of old classic culture and discovery. This is also the beginning of the age of exploration. We're going to find things. We're going to invent things. We're going to create the astrolabe. We're going to create caravels, a brand new kind of ship, right? Not caramels, because that's a candy, but a caravel with a V. We're going to create or work on innovating a compass. We're going to create charts. There's a guy named Prince Henry the Navigator. What he will do is he will commission ships from the Portuguese to sail down the coast of Africa, to chart the sea lanes, to chart the coast. What's going to happen is we're going to keep increasing trade. We're going to keep increasing marketing. Okay? We're going to start to explore. Part of what Henry is doing is exploring the coast of Africa to increase trade, to find a better pathway to the East Indies, to find a better pathway to the Orient. The idea is all about trade. A couple other things are going to happen. I don't want to get into slavery and all that. What I do want to get into at this particular point is the discovery of the New World. Discovering the New World is huge. The Portuguese start trading in Africa and exploring down and around. All right? The Spanish are going to be a little late to the party, but they're going to come along and they're going to be boosted by a guy named Christopher Columbus, right? It's actually Cristobal Colon, right? But we call him Christopher Columbus. What's going to happen is this. We're going to have some things happening that are horrific and terrific. One of the things that fully engages Europe is not only going to be the Renaissance, but you're also going to be looking at what's called the Reformation. This church quake that I talked about is going to be important because what's going to happen is you're going to have people start to question. You're going to have people start to question the church, people start to question the practices. There's a whole bunch of people involved. I'm just going to hit on one, and that one person is going to be Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther, which is where Martin Luther King gets his name. Martin Luther is a priest for the Catholic Church. He's a priest in a little place called Wittenberg, what we think of as modern Germany. What he's going to do is he's going to have a question of faith. He's going to have his own concerns. He's going to have his own questions. What he will do is he will start to question his faith. He will start to question the church, and he will decide after much severe studying that he has about 95 different problems with the church. So he's going to write down his 95 theses, and he's going to nail them to the church door. Why? Well, because he didn't have a computer. Why? Because there was no cell phone. Nailing things to the church door, that is that version of Twitter. Why? Everyone's going to see that posting. So that's his social media. He's going to post his 95 theses, his 95 arguments with the church on the church door. And what will happen is he's going to say, listen, the way the church does it is wrong. That's not biblical. All right? That's not doctrine. What he's going to say is his biggest issue is something called an indulgence. In order to raise money to rebuild some things, the church is going to start selling an indulgences. An indulgence is a sale of excess grace. Basically, what you have is you have a cardinal, a bishop going around saying, listen, for a small donation to the church, I can go ahead and sell you this indulgence. It's a bit of excess grace. Look at it as a get-out-of-hell-free card. If you've got someone that's passed on, well, this will initiate their better passage, and their better salvation. This offends him. All right, this offends Luther's sensibilities. He's going to go ahead and start studying, and he's going to go, wait, okay, all this good acts, all this everything else is all wrong. It says here in the Bible, just by faith alone are you saved. This is where he is going to start to question, where he's going to start to preach, when he's going to go ahead and develop a little bit extra doctrine, and he's going to start to preach. And what will happen is not just him. You're looking at John Calvin, you're looking at quite a few other folks that are going to go ahead and develop this, but he's going to have the biggest following in this area. And what will happen is the church will demand that he recant, that he take back what he said. And he's going to say, no, I don't think so. He's going to refuse to recant. He's going to get the support of the local prince. And what he will do is he will preach. Okay, he will preach and he will testify and he will go ahead and discuss this doctrine. And he's going to develop a theology that is going to become known as the Lutheran Church. This is going to cause an uprising in the Catholic Church. This is going to cause an uprising in what we think of as modern-day Germany, which was then the old Holy Roman Empire. What this is going to do is it's going to result in an ongoing war. It'll be the Catholic Church against Luther's followers. It'll be the Catholic Church against Calvin, because John Calvin is going to create the Calvinist church as well. They're going to be fighting against them, but they're going to be fighting closer over towards France. This is going to be happening more in Germany. So what will happen is this is going to be the 30 Years' War, okay? The war of religion at this particular point. It's going to be a struggle that racks Europe through several wars and through several periods at this point. But what happens is this. It's going to be a struggle for church doctrine. It's going to be a struggle for legal doctrine. And it's going to change how a lot of this works. What's important is this changes the face of government. This changes the face of church. We end up with what becomes the Lutheran Church, who is able to go ahead and divide itself from the Catholic Church. What's hugely important about this is Spain not involved in this. Spain is going to be involved in its own thing. What it's going to be involved in is something called the Reconquista. And the Reconquista is going to be the reclaiming of Spain for the Catholic Church. Over several hundred years, the Muslim people, have pushed up into Spain. They pushed up into the Iberian Peninsula. They founded some Islamic caliphates. And what's happened is the Catholic Church, the rulers of Spain, have risen up, and they've been slowly pushing back. And the Reconquista is a long-range plan to reclaim Spain for all of Catholicism. That's the Reconquista, and it takes a couple hundred years, folks. That's why they're not involved in the 30 Years' War, but they are going to have some ghosts of that come up. What's important is this. While they're dealing with the Reconquista, this guy named Columbus is going to come along and say, yo, King, Queen, how about you front me some money, and I'll go expand your horizons in the New World. And what will happen is this, is the king and queen will say, not right now, we're busy, but once we get this Reconquista done, come back and see us. that will happen. They're going to finish the Reconquista. Columbus will come back, and it's going to end up with Columbus exploring the New World and advancing there. All right, I'm going to leave you here.